After meeting this peculiar creature and making a mess with Venom in the first movie, then in the second release, Eddie ends up meeting the multiverse to join the world of Spider-Man and leave us in the present time. And now it turns out that Eddie and Venom are on the run from an army of symbiotes coming from beyond to end their lives, and they will have to make a choice to save humanity. That is why today on The Summarizer, Venom 3, The Last Dance. It all starts with Null, the god of the void and destroyer of worlds, millions of years ago when light invaded his dark kingdom, and his symbiote children betrayed and confined him. To ensure he stayed locked up, they created the Codex, a key that could free him from his prison. Now, his mission is to find this Codex and once he escapes, destroy all inhabited planets, even the symbiotes, to let his creatures be truly free. In the present, we see Eddie Brock chatting with the bartender when suddenly a portal opens and he's teleported away. The symbiote, sick and tired of multiverses, is fed up with hopping between universes, so it unleashes its fury on the bar, tearing the place apart. Eddie learns from the news about the tragic death of Detective Patrick Morgan, who appeared in the last movie. Eddie, aware he can't go back to San Francisco or hide out in Mexico forever, feels lost, unsure what to do. But then an idea starts forming in his mind. He knows some dirty secrets about New York's district attorney and could use that info to blackmail him and clear his name. Plus, Venom has always dreamed of seeing the Statue of Liberty, so they decide it's the perfect time to make that happen. Excited, they set off on their journey, and as they walk, Venom reminds Eddie they're now fugitives and warns him that if anyone tries to stop them, he won't hesitate to eat them. Meanwhile, someone's watching them closely through security cameras. At that moment, Venom senses a threat, and they head into a dark, grimy place filled with caged fighting dogs. Soon, the owners show up, warning Eddie he made a mistake entering and will pay dearly for it, threatening him with a brutal beating. But Eddie, before things turn violent, makes it clear he'll make sure all those dogs find a home first. Then, he lets Venom handle these thugs. When they leave, one of Null's monsters starts stalking them, while those watching them report that they've located Eddie and are ordered to contact General Strickland. Back at the bar, the bartender notices something strange, a small piece of the symbiote left on the table. At that moment, General Strickland arrives, picks up the fragment, and questions the bartender about the man who was there. Later, we see Payne and his twin brother stargazing, when suddenly a lightning bolt strikes them, tragically killing his brother. But this is just a dream of the doctor, who wakes up to alarming news. General Strickland is heading to Area 51, and she must go with him. Strickland explains his role is to collect symbiotes, while Dr. Payne studies them. During the conversation, her colleague reveals they managed to save another symbiote they had previously thought was dead. Getting ready for the next step, they both change into protective gear to guard against any viruses or bacteria before meeting with Patrick, the first truly compatible symbiote host. During the encounter, Dr. Payne explains to Patrick they did everything possible to save him and had no other choice, so he looks at her with a mix of sadness and resignation, telling her that just like him, she's broken too. At that moment, the symbiote sharing Patrick's body intervenes, warning them they need to escape. It explains there are creatures in the universe that hunt symbiotes and, when they find them, they'll destroy everything in their path. It also reveals the existence of a dark, vast ocean spanning the cosmos, way scarier than they can comprehend. Through this revelation, we get a glimpse of Null, the god of the void, laughing maniacally as he destroys everything in his path. The scene shifts to a flight heading to New York, where Venom tells Eddie they're headed there to clear his name and finally live in peace. However, a threat lurks as Azazelphage has boarded the plane. So, what follows is an epic but quick battle where Venom manages to toss the monster into the plane's engine, disintegrating it completely. After the victory, Venom, with a somber tone, apologizes to Eddie, explaining he has to disappear to protect him. Then, he jumps from the plane, transforming into a parachute to land safely. Later, we meet a family who has made huge sacrifices to fulfill Father Martin's dream of visiting Area 51. They've saved every penny for this trip, and as they travel, fragments of the xenophage monster fall nearby, but they ignore them. Eddie, upset about recent events, demands answers from Venom about what that creature was. Venom explains it was a xenophage, a symbiote hunter, and shares some backstory. Null, the creator of the symbiotes, forged these beasts after his creations betrayed him and imprisoned him in a prison meant to keep him asleep forever. When Eddie mentions Null's name, Venom reacts in terror, instantly covering Eddie's mouth, warning him not to say it again because just speaking Null's name could attract his attention. Venom continues explaining that Null is searching for him because Eddie has the Codex, a unique life force that was created when Eddie died and was resurrected by the symbiote. That union generated the Codex, a key that could release Null from his eternal prison. And a critical detail: if either of them, the symbiote or the host, dies, the Codex disappears, which neither of them wants. They keep walking until they spot a horse and epically use it to cross the desert faster. Meanwhile, Strickland and Dr. Payne debate the nature of the symbiotes. Payne believes they're running from something, while Strickland thinks they're migrating. But their conversation gets interrupted when they're informed that a man jumped from a plane under strange circumstances. Strickland wastes no time deploying his forces, who quickly locate our heroes. To save Eddie, Venom throws him into the water, and they both try to hide, but they're chased until they're separated, with Venom getting captured and beginning to weaken. At this point, Strickland witnesses the symbiote hunting monster, who has picked up Venom's signal and lunges to capture him. Now, the army focuses its attack on the creature, allowing Eddie to escape undetected. Later, Strickland briefs the doctor on the events, and she begins to believe Patrick's warnings. Eddie, for his part, tells Venom they need to stay hidden until they reach New York since they're now hunted by special forces. After getting Strickland's report, Dr. Payne goes to talk to Patrick, whose symbiote tells her the symbiote hunting creature has arrived. Patrick's symbiote takes its true form, revealing it can sense other symbiotes, but the one Null is after, the black symbiote, isn't there. It explains that Null is searching for the only codex bearer, and if he finds it, it'll be the end of everyone. Strickland, uneasy, asks how they can stop Null from getting it. The symbiote responds that they can't. Null is far too powerful and older than the universe itself. As long as both the symbiote and host are alive, the codex will exist, but if one dies, the codex vanishes. Strickland then tells the doctor he plans to eliminate one of them to stop the threat, though she doesn't seem on board with that solution. Meanwhile, the story shifts back to Martin, who's traveling with his family to see Area 51. He introduces Eddie to his wife, Nova, and his kids, Echo and Joja. Martin mentions they can drive him to Las Vegas since he noticed Eddie is barefoot, and they're following the road to Area 51, hoping to spot an alien before the site closes down for good. Several hours pass, and as night falls, Martin's young son offers Eddie some chocolate and, in a scared voice, admits he doesn't want to see aliens because he's afraid of them. Eddie, trying to comfort him, promises that aliens don't exist. Finally, after many hours on the road, they arrive in Las Vegas, where security cameras quickly detect Eddie. Grateful for the time spent together, Martin gives Eddie some cash and a pair of sandals before they say goodbye. Venom, thrilled, eats the chocolate, and the two chat about Venom's big dream visiting the Statue of Liberty. Jokingly, Eddie suggests stealing a car to keep the adventure going, but Venom proposes hitting up the slot machines to build up their cash. When they reach the casino, they're turned away because of their appearance, so Venom knocks out the guard. Once inside, they find a man who's so drunk he's relieving himself on the floor, oblivious to what he's doing. The guy ends up peeing on Eddie's feet, making Venom furious, so he knocks the guy out too, but not before snatching his suit to enter the club in style. In the club, Venom, excited, quickly loses all their money at the slot machines, but luck is on their side when they run into Mrs. Cheng, who's been on a winning streak and now has plenty of cash. Noticing Eddie's bad odor, she offers her hotel room so he can freshen up and then suggests they celebrate together. After Eddie cleans up and dresses, he's ready to leave, but Mrs. Chung insists they stay for one last dance, fitting with the movie's title. Eddie tries to refuse, but Venom ignores the risks, takes over, and starts dancing enthusiastically with Mrs. All while the symbiote hunter secretly follows them from afar. Venom and Mrs. Cheng enjoy their dance until the symbiote hunter gets dangerously close, prompting Venom to return Eddie's form to avoid detection. Eddie asks Mrs. Cheng to stay calm as the hunter moves away. But just as they think the danger has passed, it's short-lived peace, as Area 51 agents storm the place and capture Eddie. Meanwhile, Martin's family finally arrives at Area 51, deciding to sneak in without authorization to complete their mission. Inside the lab, Dr. Payne discovers that symbiotes degrade without a suitable host, so she concludes they need to bring Venom to the others to prevent his decay. Meanwhile, after being captured, Eddie wakes up in a trance and meets Patrick, who's still alive. At that moment, Strickland bursts into the lab and coldly informs Dr. Payne that she's no longer in charge. He's now in complete control. He coldly announces his plan to end Eddie to destroy the Codex and keep it from falling into Null's hands. Though horrified by Strickland's drastic decision, Dr. Payne and her colleague, opposed to Strickland's intentions, make a bold move. They release Venom's symbiote. Venom, returning to his true form, quickly reunites with his host Eddie, but the xenophage in the lab instantly detects Venom and pounces. As she charges, Patrick's symbiote attempts to stop her, but tragically, he's absorbed by the xenophage. The chaos escalates, and the other symbiotes held in the lab break free, bonding with random hosts to face the xenophage. Some even help Venom escape, tearing down part of the lab to clear a path outside. At the same time, Martin's family, hidden in a high vantage point, watches undetected as Dr. Payne snatches a symbiote container and slips away amidst the confusion. Meanwhile, the relentless xenophage devours one symbiote after another. Eddie, desperate to protect the Codex, tries to flee, but glancing up, he spots Martin's family above and knows he can't leave without a proper goodbye. Using Venom's powers, he scales up to them. Reaching the top, he speaks to young Echo, admitting he lied aliens are real and his best friend is one. Venom then pops his head out, thanking the kid for the chocolate, earning a smile amidst the mayhem. In the heat of battle, General Strickland, in a bid to stop the symbiotes, fires at one, causing an explosion that collapses much of the lab, endangering Martin's family as they fall towards the flames below. Though hope seems lost, Venom, now bonded with Eddie, can't let him die and dives in to save him, joined by other symbiotes. They temporarily fend off the xenophage, but it quickly reforms. Payne seizes a car and rams into the creature. Eddie prepares to flee, but the xenophage emits a piercing sound that leaves the symbiotes defenseless, revealing her intent to summon Null for reinforcements. A portal opens, allowing Null's minions to flood in, aiming to capture Venom and claim the Codex. Strickland, realizing the symbiotes aren't the real villains, agrees to help. Eddie plans to transform into Venom to distract the hunters while Strickland deploys helicopters for an attack. Despite their combined efforts, the symbiotes fall one by one. Strickland fires at the monster in desperation, getting severely injured. To draw the creature's focus away, Venom shifts into his true form, causing the hunter to release Strickland and attack Eddie instead. Just as Eddie is about to be devoured, Martin arrives and wounds the hunter, saving Eddie but leaving him gravely injured. Weakened, Venom carries Eddie to a helicopter, lamenting the xenophage's overwhelming power and the new arrivals. In a melancholic moment, Venom shares his shattered dream of seeing the Statue of Liberty. Eddie reassures him they'll see it one day, but Venom sadly insists they won't escape this time. As more hunters arrive, defeat feels inevitable. Venom comforts Eddie and declares it's time to end it all. Together, they challenge the hunters. Venom absorbs those who come for him, using his last strength to contain the threat. He then asks Strickland to activate the lab's acid system to eliminate the monsters. Strickland, knowing he likely won't survive, agrees and orders the doctor and her colleague to escape. Before the acid flows, Venom sacrifices himself, throwing Eddie to safety and urging him to remember him. The acid consumes Venom and the remaining hunters. Venom uses his last strength to shield Eddie from the acid as Eddie watches him disintegrate, bidding farewell. Strickland, nearing his end, triggers an explosion to ensure the hunters can't escape. Meanwhile, Dr. Payne has a flashback of her brother's tragic death. As they run, her colleague stumbles, but she uses the symbiote container to save her just in time. With the symbiote's help, they escape the chaos and reach safety as the lab collapses. Eddie, still alive but defeated, slips into unconsciousness. Later, Eddie awakens, disoriented, mumbling about a strange, almost unreal dream. He immediately tries to reach out to his faithful friend, Venom, hoping for some response. But reality hits hard as a general standing beside him informs him that Venom doesn't belong in this world. Despite the harsh truth, the general shares a glimmer of hope. Both Eddie and his symbiote have earned the recognition and gratitude of an entire nation. This is Eddie's chance to start anew, the general explains, but with a strict warning: what happened in San Francisco and in the past few days must remain a complete secret. If Eddie dares to tell the truth, he'll be confined to the darkest place imaginable for the rest of his life. We then see Eddie wandering the streets of New York, reminiscing on both the good and bad times he shared with Venom. Eventually, he arrives at the Statue of Liberty, the place Venom always dreamed of seeing. But it's not quite over yet. In a post-credit scene, we see Null declaring that the planets belong to him and that they will all burn under his dominion while he bears witness to their destruction. Meanwhile, we discover that the bartender is still alive and that a symbiotic cockroach has survived too. That was Venom 3: The Last Dance. Subscribe and stay tuned for more releases coming soon.